Great. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We usually start off for the Economic Development Commission meeting on February 6th. It's 5:32. We usually start with a roll call if we wanted to do that. I'll just go down the list. Joe De La Cruz,
Here.
Jake Dunnigan,
Present.
Bob Boris,
Here.
George Mathenall is not here. Let me see if he's waiting in our waiting room. Nope. Okay. And then Pantea.
Here.
Great. Alexander Hastings.
Here.
Great. And Bob Keep.
Here.
Excellent. Also, Corinne Piazza with the Town of Groton and Clayton Potter. Thank you so much. Next, we usually move into public communications. If anyone has anything they'd like to share about just recent outings with the community or work they've done for the EDC, you can just keep it brief, but if anyone has anything they wanted to share. Nope. All right. And then approval of minutes. Those are in your packet that Lauren sent out to everybody from our last meeting on November 13th. So if there is a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
Great. All right. And old business is that we have most of our content under new business. So all right, Bob, if we move into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yep.
Excellent. And I think it kind of overlaps. Let me pull up my screen. I found my screen really fast. Oh, can everyone see that? Okay, the first slide.
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent. And I can see some of you, but not all of you. So if anyone needs to jump in, you can do the raise your hand icon or just shout and I'll stop. But we wanted to get started today with some introductions because we have 2 new members, which we're really excited to have joining us. And also, I'm relatively new and Clayton just joined in December. So we also wanted to give you some information on who your team is through the staff as well. So with that, we now have 7 members, which is really exciting with our 2 new folks that are joining us. We wanted to list everyone in their year that their term ends, their 5-year terms, and something that might be a little confusing for Alex and Bill. Your years are on there and they're obviously not 5 years from now. So we also wanted to explain that the way the policy is set up, the terms are set to stagger. And when a new member fills a vacant seat, it's up for the remainder of that term. So once you hit the 2026, 2027, if you're renewed, you start a new 5-year term. So if we wanted to go around, we could start with you, Bob, as chair, and just very briefly, under a minute, just a brief background and your experience that you lend to EDC and really what you want to bring to the EDC or why you're here.
Okay. Well, my family started a company on Thames Street in 1981. So I've been here forever in this environment, participating in the business community. Originally, it was just a lot in the city of Groton. And then over the years, I got to know the Mystic areas and all the different parts and just have a real passion for economic development and also a passion for getting people to understand it's synergistic with sustainability. And, I think that's it for me. If there's one thing that we could do as a commission, if we can energize a community to understand that it's hand in hand, like the open space people have done a great job making this a beautiful place to live and just kind of engaging people that, economic development is about access and leveraging that so everybody benefits. And I think I'm very grateful that we have new members on the commission now, younger members and people engaged. And I think that, we can really do great by the town by getting that message out. And so that's why I'm passionate about it. I'm grateful for everybody here too.
Thank you so much. And thanks for serving as chair. We appreciate it. I'll just go down the list. Joe, did you want to go next?
Sure. Joe De La Cruz. Actually, work locally my whole life. I've never left between Groton and London. Never really lived anywhere else. And currently, my whole career has been sheet metal worker. But more recently, since 2011, was brought into the office, seeing the business side of everything through the eyes of an owner, not being the owner, but really being able to see the day-to-day operations, to see how we can help other businesses, kind of prop them up inside of our town and make sure that they're successful. So just I wanted to be a member to kind of see what was going on in town, but also making sure that we caught this big wave. If you guys are not from here, recently the electric boat, I'd say recently in the last 5 or 6 years, has been an absolute wave of work, a wave of economic development. And we lived through it. I was here for the first one in the 80s. And I want to make sure that we are catching the wave and riding the wave. And I think we don't think we did that last time. Not to anyone's fault. I think we just all thought it was going to happen and go forever. And all good things sometimes come to an end. So you got to diversify, and that's what I hope to bring. And that's why I'm here. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe. Jake?
So I've been a member for, I guess, about a year now. I'm a transplant to town. Like Bob and Joe said, we've got a lot of growth coming, and it's good to steward something like that. I think they have a better perspective on what happened in the mid-90s from not taking advantage and diversifying. For me, I worked at Electric Boat for a long time, and it's a great place to work. Just not maybe forever. I think that the creating an environment where people can live sort of their best lives, and I think that that takes a little bit of autonomy. And to be autonomous, I think you have to have some control of the pie. And if we can encourage people to sort of live and conduct business in the way that they want to, you just have a more fulfilling life if you're engaged in your daily work. So I hope to encourage people to be part of the community, really.
Great. Thank you so much. And Pantea?
Hi. So I didn't grow up here. I actually grew up in San Diego. I did my undergraduate in Los Angeles and then moved to Boston. And in the process, met my husband, who is a Groton boy through and through, from generational farm families. And this is where or I should say, I ended up. And fast forward a few years, we have a 3 and a 4-year-old. We have a small business. We operate a farm. And I've always believed in this quote, which is, you give where you live. So this is where our roots are. And joining the EDC for me was the first step in being able to help contribute and be a part of the community. But also, I don't want to be the person that complains about the town. I want to be the person that's a part of actually being able to contribute and make positive change and be in a place that I'm proud of. And, I have a lot of skin in the game because I want there to be more businesses that are also centered around families, not more vape shops in town, more things for kids to do and to really grow. So that's why I'm here, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Great. I love that quote. I'm totally stealing that. That's fantastic. Thank you. And then Alex, as one of our new members.
Hi. So I grew up in upstate New York, and I moved down to this area. I think it was about 2019, the end of 2019. So right before COVID. And I worked at Electric Boat for 4.5 years, and now I transitioned to Eversource. So, but my role as Eversource is kind of like, it's a really nebulous one. Like, we kind of drive the economic development of like large, like capital expenditure projects. And, where I grew up, there was a large company, Global Foundries, and they make a lot of computer chips. And where I grew up, like, they kind of boomed recently just because of so many like job growth opportunities. And I see the same thing happening with Electric Boat. So, I want to be a part of like help shaping the community and like help like what Pantai said, and not have more vape shops, have places for like kids, more outdoor space, things like that. So just a positive change in the community.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for joining. We are so excited to have you. And Bill.
Sure, I'm Bill Keep, originally from Michigan, and I came to Connecticut in '98 on faculty at Quinnipiac University for 11 years. Then I went to New Jersey and I retired from the College of New Jersey as a dean of the business school, and I was also interim provost for a couple of years and full-time faculty member for a couple of years. My field is marketing. I've spent decades teaching retailing, wholesaling, sort of the different roles that businesses play in getting a product from its source of origin to the consumer. Obviously, a lot of that's changed with social media, with Amazon and all that. And you know, when I was at Quinnipiac, maybe it was when I was in New Jersey. Anyhow, my wife said she wanted to retire to Mystic, so I'm like, I don't care, that's fine. You know, it doesn't make any difference to me, as long as she didn't say like Phoenix or Florida. Although right now, right today, wouldn't mind being down there. But anyhow, so I think that, you know, I've interacted with a lot of businesses, you know, alums that have businesses or businesses that have come to speak at classes. And, you know, except for the largest businesses, most businesses don't have the capacity to have someone to really get a sense of what's really going on in the environment around them. They're just making their day-to-day decisions. They're trying to, you know, make their businesses work. They've got employee issues, they have customer issues, they got supplier issues. And I think that, you know, it's really important to help them understand the resources that are available, to try to connect them up. So in my sense is communication is a really important role here, in terms of the staff and the business community and the commission. So hopefully I can be helpful.
Great. Thank you so much. We're so excited. And you also came from the RTM. You have a lot of experience.
Oh, yeah,
there.
I was on the RTM, but I couldn't do both, and I prefer this. You know, I think I understand. I've taught a lot of business cases, and I've known a lot of people who have businesses. I have never had one, but I think this is where I could use my experience best.
Great. Thank you so much. We're so glad you're here. All right. So we'll dive into our staff a little bit. We're excited to introduce our team to you. You may have worked with each of us at some point, but I'll start with Lauren Post. You probably recognize her name from all the emails you get. She is our economic development technician. Oh, actually, sorry, before I dive into Lauren, I did want to do kind of the overview of our team. So essentially, our division is within the Office of Planning and Development Services, or OPDS. And we have, in our department, we have planning, inspection services, and resiliency and sustainability, as well as community and economic development. We have a really diverse range of backgrounds and education and experience that we'll walk you through today. But I think collectively, if we had to say why we're all here and do what we do, we're all really passionate about connecting residents and businesses with the resources they need to succeed and have a high quality of life. Much like pretty much what all of you said, why you're here as well. We manage a very extensive range of projects, programs, incentive programs, and grants, and also oversee the redevelopment of our excess properties and a lot of housing support programs and business programs. So now back to Lauren. She's been with the town for 10 years. She's a Groton resident, and she is our economic development technician. She came from the hospitality industry, and her institutional knowledge of how everything works within the town and passion about the town is really the backbone of our team. She knows everything there is to know, and we really rely on that a lot. Lela is the photo to the left of Lauren. He's our community development planner. You won't work as much directly with him through the EDC, but just some background, as he's a key part of our team, and you will be supporting just housing in general. He has an incredible amount of educational experience. He has 2 master's degrees and a PhD. And his PhD, all of them are really focused on planning and housing. But overall, it's focused on affordable housing development challenges in small towns. And he runs all of our housing programs, ranging from housing rehabilitation to staffing our Fair Housing and Rent Commission. And he's a municipal liaison for our State Department of Revenue Services Neighborhood Assistance Act program. So that's only a little bit, but he is incredibly immersed in the community and helping residents connect to services, especially around housing. And I'll let Clayton introduce himself.
Right. Thank you, Corinne. I'm going to do a little bit longer than a minute of an introduction. So Clayton Potter, I'm born and raised in New London and spent most of my life there going through the public schools. I left to go to do my undergrad in English literature at Columbia in New York City. Came back home because I wanted to stay connected to my community and make a difference. I spent about 5 years at Connecticut College in a variety of roles. Community outreach or engagement was always part of my title. I taught a few classes. I did work getting students connected to the business and nonprofit communities there. And then in the last year, I worked for Town of Groton Parks and Rec and ended up coming to work with the EDC or coming to a couple meetings and did some work with the EDC in that role, and where I was doing community outreach as well. So just being from the area, I've always been pretty in tune with the business community. Like I live right near downtown New London and walk my dog through there every day, and I see how much turnover there is. I see empty storefronts, and my brain has always worked around like, well, how can we solve that? What's the difference between successful businesses that are able to stay, and what happens when there's businesses who are here for a few weeks, a few months, or a year or two, and then they're gone. I've noticed the same thing kind of coming across the bridge, like in the city of Groton. I have watched downtown Mystic evolve. I remember going when the Candy Emporium was there on Water Street years ago, and now seeing it thrive today. So I'm happy to be on this side of the bridge, and I got my master's in public administration from the University of New Haven in 2022. And since then, I was kind of eyeing economic development, and I was enjoying my time at Parks and Rec. While I had been looking to get into economic development, I really wouldn't have made the move at that time into any other town or municipality. I wanted this position because I know how strong the OPDS team is and how many bright minds there are here, and the ways that John Reiner kind of encourages us to push things and make change here. So I was really grateful for this opportunity. I'm also on the board of the Southeastern Connecticut Enterprise Region sector, and a couple other community organizations in the area. So happy to be doing this work, and I've been here since December, and I've jumped right in.
Great. Thank you so much, Clayton. He absolutely has. We're giving him a ton of work real fast, and he's been doing really, really great. We're so happy to have him, and we have not been fully staffed for since I've been here, really. So it's exciting too that we're building our team up and ready to go. And then for my background, I am the Community and Economic Development Manager. A lot of you worked with Paige prior, so he moved to the private sector, and I took the manager position. And I have over 15 years of experience across private, nonprofit, and public sectors. But no matter the sector, my work really focuses on creating prosperous places for people to live and do business. I won't go through my whole resume, but most recently I came from the redevelopment agency of Salt Lake City, where I work closely with our elected officials and communities to accomplish our city's economic development goals that range from the development of wellness-focused affordable housing and large retail projects, to managing over 30 million in incentives and tax increment finance projects, as well as on a smaller neighborhood-based scale, working on cultural district implementation, placemaking projects, public art, and supporting local businesses through adaptive reuse loans, and helping businesses get into some of our older buildings in zones that were appropriate for them. Prior to that, I worked for NeighborWorks Salt Lake, and we focused on equitable access to housing and empowering our local residents to spearhead community projects that we would fund. I also recently co-taught a master's course on public-private partnerships for the University of Utah. I was really proud of this project because you don't often see the planners and the developers in the same room, especially not early. So we crafted this course to really get that conversation going and preparing our young professionals for how public-private partnerships can work and be more effective to accomplish municipalities' goals. And I also was proud of this because myself and my co-instructor, it was the first class to be taught in the Masters of Real Estate department by 2 women. So that was great. And then for my educational background, my undergrad's from University of Rhode Island in communications, and my master's is in urban planning from University of Utah. And I think my trademark is I really combine these 2 fields because so often communications is missing from government work. And I really try to be a conduit between plans and people. And I think finally, I usually like to share why I'm passionate about the field. Because economic development means something different to everyone. It can be large scale, small scale, but it's all connected. And early in my career, I had the chance to go to Guatemala and work on a humanitarian project where we were doing microloans for women to start their own businesses and lift themselves out of poverty. And it was just life-changing for me. It set me on my trajectory for my whole career, and really being passionate about getting folks the resources they need to use their talents and have a really high quality of life. My career's taken me far and wide, but I am originally from Connecticut and just really happy to be returning home to help with the town's economic future, essentially. So we wanted to make sure you knew who we were because we're going to be supporting you a lot this year, and really excited to get to work with you overall.
Yeah, great. Let me just jump in real quick. I'm not sure if George joined us. If he did, we give him an opportunity to
Absolutely. Great. Let me see if he's in my, oh, there he is.
Yep.
Hello.
Hi, George. Were you able to hear us that whole time?
I heard all.
Oh.
I'm so impressed with all of you.
Great, thank you. I'm glad that you weren't stuck in the waiting room there. Please, you can, thanks for joining, and just give us a brief intro, especially so our new members know who you are. Oh, and why you like, or what you bring to the EDC, essentially.
What I bring to the EDC, I'm still trying to figure that one out. Can you see me?
I can't, but we are having some issues with cameras where some folks can't seem to turn theirs on, so we can hear you though.
All right. I've been with the EDC since 2007. So I am the old guy in this crowd. I've served all the roles at the EDC, and I seem to be at this point just happy to be the secretary and let Boris be the chief and run things forward. I live over at in the city of Groton, and my background has been in banking for 20 odd years, lived in many parts of the world, and retired, and well, I shouldn't say retired, semi-retired, and living here in Connecticut. And out of pure boredom, I decided to be active and try and see how I could uplift my community. So hence I joined the EDC in 2007. I also sit on several state and federal boards because that's what semi-retired people do. And that's about it, I guess.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining. We appreciate it. All right, so let's see. I'm going to jump back to, can you see the slides again?
Yep.
Okay, great. So we're really excited about this meeting in particular because at this time, or usually in December, but We didn't have a meeting December or January. You, as a commission, go over your goals and set your path and your objectives for the year. So we have been working just as a staff and with Bob as well on drafting, essentially helping to draft the 2025 goals for this year. And we'll jump into how we went about that. And in particular, we didn't start from scratch. We were just essentially building on the 2024 goals. If you remember these, they were essentially increasing the frequency of communication with local businesses and hosting an event or two, improving business advocacy through outreach and reporting your learnings to town council, and then strengthening relationships with the community and reporting those insights that you learn. And we know there's a lot of effort around these. Some things worked, some things different. So very briefly, we just wanted to see, and maybe if Jake wanted to chime in, as I know you did a lot of efforts around this, on some things that you thought worked or didn't work overall.
So, one of my biggest thing for what isn't working, at least for me, and this is maybe a personal thing, is that I need a little more accountability in order to go out and be more active and engaging people. It's tough because our role is so soft in terms of, like, you know, even if we put a list together, that's not really what our purpose is. Our purpose is to be a conduit, right? So it's kind of it's a hard thing to measure sometimes. One really strong relationship with a bank manager who talks to 10 businesses is worth more than 5 medium relationships with, you know, assorted businesses around town, right? So, like, it's my difficulty has been with how you know, it's probably my engineering background. Like, I want a hard figure, and there just aren't that many to come up with. So that's been my toughest thing.
Great, thank you. Bob, does your dog want to add? No.
Yeah, sorry. She thinks it's all about her 24/7. It's like, why are all these people talking in our house? Yeah, I would just say, you know, I'm very grateful for the tools that you town staff have given us, and I'm very inspired with Clayton joining us. Just in the one, you know, the background here is that the chair has a meeting with the town staff to sort of go over and prep for, you know, every one of these meetings. And, you know, right from the beginning, Clayton's jumped in there, and Corinne, your experience is great. I'm so positive about this next year and utilizing those tools. I almost want to, personally, like, breeze through the discussion of what didn't work and sort of get back into, you know, and be very grateful for, you know, your energy. But one thing I will echo with that Jake said, I like accountability. So if we have lists and we're sort of checking it off and reporting to one another here about what we've done, it's kind of helpful for me. So I don't know how others feel, but.
Great, excellent, thank you. All right, and then I will jump into the 2025. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, so one of Clayton and I's first goals, especially like diving in we wanted to help provide some more of that support. And so we took a stab at those 25 goals that we worked on with Bob, and I wanted to provide some background on what we added to them. So we gave each one an actionable title. This was largely just so you have that elevator pitch in your mind of, okay, you know, there's 3 things that I'm here for, and we'll walk through those in a little bit. We also connected them to existing town goals and the overall purpose of the EDC per basically the charter. We also added the why. So again, it's really easy to have that direction and not feel like you're lost or that it's overwhelming. We also added clear action items and measurables for Jake and everyone, so that you feel like you have a target that's reasonable, but also obtainable. Oh, did somebody have something to add? Oh, no, okay. And then we also added ways that staff can support. So, you know, if you're going out and doing outreach, we have very clear contacts, or people aren't doubling up, or different ways that we can support you so that your work is as easy as possible, because you're all volunteers and only have so much time in the day. We also took a look at best practices because we're not the first ones to try to run an EDC, and so we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, and looked at what works for other successful EDCs. A few of those takeaways were the importance of a strategic plan for success. That's basically our goals for the year. Development of strong relationships with businesses and community stakeholders, recognizable and accessible representatives, outreach and research-driven decision-making and policy recommendations. This is very relevant because a lot of times town council will call on EDC to help inform them about a potential policy decision that affects businesses. Also doing all-encompassing stakeholder engagement, clear and consistent channels of communication, and continually learning and evolving based on the stakeholders' needs. So we tried to kind of start with that framework. And then we also, we spent a lot of time with the policy and looking at, what empowers the EDC and what the tasks are. And of course, that's a longer document and technical. So we wanted to boil it down to just a very simple purpose. So again, you have that elevator pitch in your mind. We were going to have this printed out for you, so you just have a nice takeaway, but you'll have it electronically throughout the year as well. But essentially the purpose is advocate for the needs of Groton businesses and entrepreneurs to support their retention, growth, and sustainability. So when you're on the street and someone asks you, it's nice, cut and dry, and also inspiring. Overall, the policy addresses these assigned responsibilities or powers and duties, collaborating with other boards and commissions on economic development issues, positively influencing the economic health and growth of Groton, and being a liaison to the business community and advocating for them to town manager and town council. I have called it a charter and a policy. I've used several terms tonight, but what I do mean is the bylaws at the bottom of this slide. The bylaws are the guidelines that were established to help help establish the EDC. These are typically revised if needed in the November meeting and can be updated if you wanted to add something to those. So with the 2025 goals, overall, it's advance town goals, strengthen relationships, and listen, learn, and report. And then Clayton's going to walk you through the what, the why, and the how, and in particular, how staff's going to support you in these efforts as well. Take it away, Clayton.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so we broke each slide down for each of the goals, and like Corinne said, there's a what and a why for each, because we want to just have that clarity around what we're doing and then why it's important. So for advancing town goals, we're looking to the main goal based upon priorities identified in the economic development strategy and the plan of conservation and development, PLCD. We're advocating to advance town goals and priorities, such as increasing housing and supporting local businesses. And that's important because the EDC's work should be aligned with the already identified needs and goals of our businesses and our residents to support ongoing and long-term initiatives. So contextualizing the work of the EDC in some of the broader work of the town, of our other commissions, and on behalf of our residents and our business community. As the EDC, your focus is on our local businesses, but we have these other larger guiding documents, our POCD, economic development strategy, to name a couple. So we just want to make sure that the internal goals of the EDC are supporting the broader work for the community at large. I'm good there, Corinne.
Great. There you go.
Thanks. Then strengthening relationships. So proactively build relationships with local businesses to learn their needs and goals and connect them with applicable services and programs. Again, this is something that you've always been working on, but as we heard, this is where we really want to grow. And the why being to continue to establish a strong presence in the community and serve as a trusted resource. And I think of this goal as this is where the EDC will be able to have success and achieve, the other two goals that kind of are on the front and back end of this. So thinking about connecting business to resources, Bill kind of talked about this in his why statement. When we're thinking about local small businesses, they might not always have the capacity or even the knowledge and awareness of different grant programs, or, you know, operating things kind of on the back end of the business. They might be able to provide a really good product and a really good service, but just not be in tune with all of the resources that are out there and designed to make them successful, or the potential resources that could help them have more success in the town and at large. So that's where the EDC really comes into play. If we're out there on a regular basis, like semi-regular basis, continuously visiting different businesses and developing trust over time, then you become that face of the business community, and you become a resource and a representative, and they know that they can call upon you when they have a question, when things are going well and they want to let somebody know, or when things aren't going so well and they might need some help and they're trying to figure something out. You all can be a go-to person, be a rep. And with that in mind, it's important that you all are aware of the different programs and incentives that the town has available for these businesses, and not expecting you to know everything. No one does. That's where, you know, our work as staff members comes into play as well. We want to be a resource and partner for you all, but just knowing where to look and knowing how to make these connections for our businesses so that they can be successful. And then third goal, listen, learn, and report. I kind of think of this one as, you know, after you're building those strong relationships, what are you able to do? Listen, you're able to, you know, provide report, provide some feedback and move things along, getting into that policy and advocacy role. So build and utilize relationships with local businesses to understand their needs and goals, as well as collect feedback on specific topics to help inform policy recommendations, potential projects, and program needs. And informing policy recommendations or project proposals will make doing business in Groton easier and make our businesses more successful. So they're really all tied right in together. They build upon each other. And that role of advocacy is really something that, you know, we want to see the EDC taking ownership of, because you all do have the authority and kind of the power to get right before town council, get on their agenda, like some other, like, you know, well, a business owner might be able to make a public comment, or it takes a series of steps to get on the town council's agenda. It's pretty easy for the EDC. They want to hear from you. They want you to help inform what's going on, and they look for you and they look to you. So as you're learning what's going on in the business community, I'll talk about some outreach forums that we'll have in a minute. But when you have your ear to the street and you know what's going on, and you know you're seeing themes of challenges that are going on in the business community, or recognizing problems, maybe it's, you know, issues with permitting that are too complicated or what have you, take note, bring that back to the team. We can get before council and see what we can do to make improvements for our businesses. All in all, it's coming back to having those relationships and building upon them over time, because it takes time to develop trust. And, you know, especially if businesses are having challenges, that might not be the first thing that they want to talk about. But the more that we're out in the community, the easier it will be to relate to them and advocate. And that's how I like to do my work personally. I mentioned I have a background in, like, community outreach has always been part of my work. Now that I've gotten settled in here in this role, I'm also planning on taking the time to get out and visit businesses and get to know more people and let them know that, hey, I'm here as a resource as well. All right, so now I'll kind of talk about the how. So I'll mention when we send out a bunch of materials that we're referencing throughout this presentation tomorrow, you will get a copy of the 2025 goals. It's in a more formal document. It'll have the goals I just went over. With each goal, there are action items, which is kind of what we'll talk about right now. And then there's also staff support that's mentioned. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, so we won't dive too deep into this right now, but just so you can see the layout, each goal takes this format. So in the slides, the actions are kind of formatted in the how. I'm gonna read the bullets for each goal and then expand upon them a little bit more for clarity. So advancing town goals. We want to utilize the economic development strategy and the POCD to advocate for town goals such as housing support or supporting housing development. We want to work with other town commissions to identify ways to collaborate and make public comment at council meetings or get on their agenda. We already mentioned a couple of these things, but if you're wondering like, well, why housing development? It's part of the economic development strategy. And even if housing specifically might not seem like a direct responsibility of the EDC, it's definitely related. We always say retail follows rooftops. We know 82% of the workforce here in Groton is commuting from out of town. More housing here will help retain those employees, allow them to live in town, give in town, as was mentioned, and spend here. And then, of course, more housing will increase the tax base for the town. Then I think Bob had kind of alluded to this earlier, like the work of the conservation groups in town, but working with other commissions gets back to advancing town-wide goals. We know that there's often kind of conservation and economic development seem to butt heads, at least in general conversation or in the public sphere. But we really want to be working with the conservation to strike the balance of community and economic development. The Planning and Zoning Commission might be folks that we need to work with at different times, or Beautification Committee. They have things that they want to do, like helping to kind of improve or really, yeah, beautify, improve some of the frontage of private businesses. And we might want to, you know, be a connecting point in that process. And then moving into strengthening relationships. One of the goals, or yeah, one of the actions to carry out this goal is hosting an event for business owners to learn from them and share information with them. We want to see EDC commissioners attending businesses and business and community events to continuously increase your presence. And then, you know, when you're out and about, introduce yourself and just represent the EDC. That's one of those reasons why we wanted you to have that kind of quick purpose statement, that little elevator pitch. So, you know, you have something easy that's easy for you to remember, but also easy for businesses or community members to receive and isn't so technical in its language. Will definitely help keep you abreast of business and community events that are coming up as we learn about them through different listservs, or as we're getting that information, we'll pass it along and hope that different members can attend at different times. If one of you learns about something through your network, pass it along. But yeah, just getting out there, spending the time to let people know who you are, what you're doing, and that you are adamant about building trust and serving the community. And then listen, learn, and report. So we have after outreach forms that we'll provide you all with, so that once you go out and visit businesses, you can make note of what you learn in your conversations. And not every conversation will will require you to go and jot down different problems or something real serious that you learned about from a business. But just keeping track, as we try to hit our goals for how many businesses we're reaching, that form is pretty simple and straightforward and allows you to store that information in one place. Then you can bring it back to the team, to the EDC, to us as staff, so that we can start identifying themes, and we'll ask at monthly meetings moving forward, what did you accomplish in your outreach over the last month? And then over the course of the year, we'll be able to organize that feedback to inform policy recommendations, as we've mentioned, potential projects, and incorporate that into annual reports as well. All right.
Great. And before we jump into this, does anyone have any?
Thank you.
Sorry, any questions or feedback on those? And we know that some of them are similar, but we're trying to connect a little bit more of the staff resources to help you accomplish those. And again, those measurables, just so you feel like there's a tangible task ahead of you.
I would just say some version of this may be posted on the website to explain for the public, tailor this because it's great and very succinct, and we'll have the marching orders, but I think it's helpful to have that be able to point people to as well. Something like that's already there, but not like this. So
that's a great idea. We'll touch on it briefly, just kind of in our next steps, but we're looking to use that website a little bit more and update it. And so I'd love to put the goals on there. And we wanted to create a shared drive so that you also have access to everything, in case you can't find the email we sent it out in, months ago. It's all in one place for you to grab pretty easily. So it's great. Yeah, we'll make sure website and then that shared drive so you have more access or consistent access to things.
And Corinne, again, before this slide, both Jake and Bob had talked about accountability, and we've mentioned trying to make these goals measurable, or the intention we've done to make these goals measurable. So do you mind pulling up the goals document and scroll into the listen, learn, and report?
This one?
Yes, that document, and then down towards the bottom. Cool. Yep, right here. Perfect. So I wanted to, I'll phrase this very particularly so that it's not overwhelming, but you can see the actual number, you mentioned measurables, Jake. So we're asking each EDC member to visit 2 to 3 businesses per month to have informal conversations, gather feedback, and share resources. So 3 businesses a month, not too crazy. I mean, however often you're out and about, you can probably knock that out pretty easily. If you spent a Saturday morning popping around to a few businesses in one neighborhood, you can get that done. We will help organize that process so you guys aren't going to the same businesses or overlapping each other. But just thinking about the numbers, if each of you get out to 3 businesses in a month with 7 commissioners over the course of a year, we'd be able to connect with 252 businesses. That's huge. So while we didn't want to say your goal is to reach 252 businesses, if you work it backwards and break it down in a small way, that's a potential accomplishment. So we're asking just 2 to 3. And again, we'll help organize and track that over the course of the year. So I just wanted to touch on that in case you're wondering, well, what is the measurables? That's one of them. That's
great. And thanks for that perspective, because it's a great tangible, but broken down in a small version, it feels like something you can accomplish, but collectively it's a really great number.
I like the saying, how do you eat a cow? One bite at a time.
That's awesome. And we know over the years, it's been tough to know which businesses and folks were worried about maybe going to the same ones. So we'll definitely, Clayton's actually working on a directory right now, so that there's, updated information. Some of it will pull from CoStar or just from permitting, but then also it's always the boots on the ground that get us the actual most up to date. So us as staff also will be building a lot of relationships up there, but just trying to get you more resources so you feel like your efforts are focused, and you have what you need. And then you can also help us populate that. One of the things we always ask when we're out is, what's the best time to reach you? Because every business is different hours that are, busy or not. And so we recently did an effort around flood preparedness in Mystic, and got a lot of that feedback from businesses of when it's a good time for them to chat. And we can kind of build from there too, so that when it is time to inform a policy, we know when we can reach folks. Any other questions or comments?
I would just comment, as chair, one of my functions is to create the annual report. So, whoever's going to take over this next is also going to have the appreciation for having the data of businesses that we spoke to is so crucial, because when I talk to the council, it's important that I am able to share what Clayton just said. We've talked to hundreds of businesses, and this is what's happening. So I'm grateful. Like I keep repeating the metrics that you guys are putting in place. Maybe there's a way that you can sort of, when you send out the invitation, you send us 3 suggestions for businesses for the next month or something like that we can pick up, or something else that helps us along in that process. And then just, let's all just do that. And we do a lot of other great things, at the EDC, but the outreach portion, we get this, sparked off, we can really transform. I know since COVID, it's sort of gotten a little disconnected, but yeah, so I say go, go, go.
Wonderful. Thank you. And the invite thing actually ties it in perfectly to, we only have really like a slide or 2 left. So we usually like to try to keep this an hour. And that ties into our attendance guidelines, especially with our new folks. We thought it'd be helpful to just dive into the expectations there, and try to also make it easier for you to say if you're coming or not, and for us to know. I think typically Lauren would send an email, but we'd like to switch over to those calendar invites. So it's very easy to hit accept. It's on everyone's calendars, and I will go back to the presentation for you to walk through the rest of that, Clayton.
Sure. Right. So just to keep it going, Corinne mentioned earlier, we haven't been able to meet since November 2024 because we haven't had a quorum, and nobody wants to drive to the annex for a 5:30 meeting and realize at 5:35 that we won't be able to meet because we don't have a quorum. So we came up with kind of an attendance confirmation guidelines. You'll get those in your email tomorrow. And
Can I interject real quick?
yes.
Apologies. You guys keep saying that we haven't met since November, but like I'm not going crazy. We met December 4th and
there was no quorum. Sorry, we held the meeting, but without the quorum, it makes it less effective. So we know it's the holidays. It's more just trying to have a good pulse on if the meeting will have a quorum and if folks are attending before, because if not, we would just reschedule it.
Oh, okay. But we did have a December meeting. We just didn't count.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right. I was going nuts. All right.
No.
Okay. I'm checking my email.
Thanks
I'm
for
like,
that
I swear to God. No, thank you. Okay. Appreciate it.
No worries.
So the process moving forward, Lauren is going to send out calendar invitations 2 weeks in advance of a meeting. We're asking you to RSVP to the invitation, not send a separate email, but RSVP right to the invitation within 1 week. If something comes up in the after time and your plans change, we ask that you communicate to Lauren at least 48 hours in advance of the meeting.
And Clayton, if I could just jump in there, we also know life happens. So, Jake, you have a new baby, like there's all different things in life. So really, if it's less than the 48 hours it happens, just try to let us know. But we just thought guidelines overall will be helpful to get everyone on the same page. And then of course, if something comes up, we'll just adjust.
Oh, then can I just, not to put a wrinkle in this, but one thing that may be good is since we approve the calendar every year, you could send one invitation that you accept that inserts the annual, every meeting for the year into our calendar. And then the only reason I think, I mean, don't change anything now, but the only reason that's helpful for me, because that then blocks out my calendar in the future. So I don't, when I'm, you know, in March or April, people are asking if I'm available. If it's not in my calendar at that space,
Right.
you know, I could book something. But if I accept the EDC calendar annually and it populates my Outlook, it's blocked off and I'm moving things around it. It's just,
That's a great point.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. We can send them out so the whole year is booked and then do a follow-up that folks can accept, and so that we know each month closer to, but you're absolutely right. We like blocking out the whole year
Yeah.
makes sense. Great. Thank you. We can add that. Great.
Making that note for myself. Okay, thank you, Bob. So yeah, so that's going to be the process that we ask you all to follow going forward. And then additionally, ironically, we ended up being virtual, so you got some of the materials electronically for this meeting, and we'll send all the resources that we've mentioned tomorrow. But moving forward, we aren't going to print any materials for meetings. That's actually the standard in town. That no other commissions have their materials printed for thinking about sustainability and advances those goals. But we will send you the materials that you need in advance of the meeting, and we ask that you block out some time to review those so that in the meeting we're not going over them and we can focus on the productive discussion, questions, or actions that need to be taken. And we will also create a Google Drive that will store all the information in a organized fashion so that you can reference them at your convenience.
And with this, we also know a lot of times, everyone's rushing from work, trying to get to the meeting. And so we wanted to also have that drive so that you're not searching for old emails. You just know if you're working from your phone or a tablet, when you get to the meeting, you can pull it up there. And then we'll also have it on our screen when we're in person.
And that's a good note, Corinne. In certain spaces, I run through Google Drives right on my phone during meetings, but depending on what it is, I might bring my laptop to the meeting, so you can keep that in mind too. Whatever your comfort level and preferences going forward, it might be good to have a laptop or make sure your phone is charged, whatever you need to do.
Great.
Thanks, Corinne. All right, so next steps. We did mention that we're looking to update the website. So we're asking everybody to send us a bio and a headshot before the March meeting. And we'd like you to keep your bio to 200 words or less. And just like you spoke to earlier, please include your why in your bio. Then we'll be able to have that all up on the website. And again, people will be able to reference that and be more familiar with you all when you're out and about or when they're looking for who can I find for help. Then we also ask you to familiarize yourself with the attendance guidelines and the other materials that will be sent around. And you can also email Lauren if you would like to have some business cards that, have your name, your number, and that you're an EDC member. And we are planning out the March meeting already. We have confirmation from our consultants and friends over at Camoin Associates. They will be doing a TIF training, tax increment finance, for us. The EDC is the sort of review board for TIF projects. And we want to make sure that we're all familiar with that process so that when a project comes up, we are capable and prepared to help it advance. And then over the course of March and April, we'll provide you with some outreach tasks, particularly around our small business pivot grant, and then just getting out there to do your first trips to businesses and make introductions. Yep, that's fine, Sharon. Thanks. So I've said it, I don't know how many times already, but we'll send you an email tomorrow with everything that we covered here in this meeting. It'll include this slide deck, the 2025 goals, the attendance guidelines. It says policy, that's my error. It's not a formal adapted town policy, so it's really attendance guidelines. And then other resources for your reference, the economic development strategy, the economic development strategy matrix, which is a more graphic friendly version, the POCD, plan of conservation and development, your powers and duties, your bylaws, and the TIF policy. This will all be organized in the Google Drive, but we'll send it directly to you via email tomorrow.
Great. Thank you, Clayton. And that really is everything. We want to try to make everything as easy as possible for you. So if you have any ideas too, as we move along, like you'd love XYZ to support your outreach, or, you know, other technical things or platforms that we could use, definitely let us know, because it'll be, you know, evolving as we figure out what works or what doesn't work for everyone. And then I think just to wrap up, we have our chair report and staff report. Bob, did you have anything for the chair report?
No, I would just use a second to just encourage commissioners to use the calendar and communication portion at the top of the meeting to really share what you've done in the last week, not necessarily just outreach, just, you know, what's happened in the community, what's going on, what's top of mind on that stuff. I don't know if we've all watched town council meetings. I'm sure you see they do a good job with that. I think that would be a great kind of flavor to bring here if we kind of go around at the top of meeting and share that. And that may lead to discussions into new business later on as well, but that's all I'd add. You know.
Thank you. That's perfect. We meant to essentially mention that too, is folks can definitely report on what they've done, and that will be really helpful too, and inspiring to the group. And then also we can connect the dots on what we're hearing and any emerging themes and those types of things. So great. Thank you. And then we'll go really fast just for our staff report. This is where we usually tell you how a lot of the projects we're working on are going. Overall, our excess properties is one of our main priorities, is to get our Groton Heights and Pleasant Valley properties up and running. They've been vacant for 8-10 years. And, you know, we're getting to the point with especially Groton Heights that it's a stunning historic building, and it's almost not going to be cost effective to save. So it's a urgent project and we're working on that. Basically our Groton Heights project has gone through the property sale review committee and they've arrived at a recommendation for town council. That goes Tuesday night to town council. You'll see me there with that. Essentially at that point, they review that recommendation and then make ultimately through a few steps, a final decision on the preferred project concept and developer. Pantea served on the property review committee for that. So thank you so much. Even while she was in Hawaii, she tuned in to Zoom meeting. So cannot thank you enough. Pleasant Valley is next up, and we actually start the property sale review committee process where again, they go over the RFP responses, decide who hit the mark the most, and make a recommendation to town council. And we have that kickoff for Pleasant Valley Monday night. So 2 big excess property things or steps taking place next week. And Clayton, if you want to just quickly breeze through the other pieces.
Yep. So our small business pivot grant updates, I think most of you are familiar, but since we have a couple new members, the pivot grants are designed to help small businesses recover from impacts of COVID. It's a $5,000 grant for infrastructure or technical services or improvements, and or a $1,500 grant for aesthetic improvements. We have, since it originally launched, there's been 8 businesses who have been approved, and a total of $36,458.78 has been awarded. And now we have 5 businesses whose projects are pending. Corinne and I went to the city's EDC meeting last night, and there were between, I think 5, 6, 7 businesses in the room. And everybody was very excited. People grabbed applications right away, asked questions. It was very engaging. So that's going well. And we want to continue to encourage you all to continue promoting this program to our business community. And we have some resources available to help you do that. We also mentioned earlier that I am working on a business directory using a few different resources that I have access to: CoStar, our permitting, the tax assessors list, and getting out there and driving around so that we can just have a comprehensive document with everything in one place so that we know what businesses are active, have some contact information, and have it organized by different business types, etc. A quick ARPA update. I'm sure you are all aware we received over $8.5 million in ARPA funding. And in October of 2024, there was a surplus of $492,000 and $492,246 that had not yet been allocated to applicable projects. And they needed to be allocated by December 31st of last year. Otherwise, they would have had to be returned. Lauren did a lot of work to make sure that we met that deadline. And so all of those funds are successfully allocated and do not need to be returned. On January 29th, we had another community conversations, and the theme was Hot Topics, Real Answers. So we focused on recent commercial and housing developments and provided insight into how decisions are made around private development here in town, and talked about what roles the town does play and does not play with regards to private development. It was pretty well received. We had good dialogue after. We had breakout. John Reiner gave a presentation, and then we went into breakout groups, had good discussions, and really encouraged people to take the POCD survey, because something that came out of that conversation, or that we emphasized in that conversation, was the zoning and permitting process is very influential and significant with respect to how development occurs. So the POCD is where community members get to really chime in and decide what they would like to see with respect to conservation and development over the next 10 years.
And if I just want to add, just for our new folks, the Community Conversations is a series our department launched that actually prior to us getting here, but that we've helped like to help with. And it's basically an invitation to just have conversations with the community and residents about different topics that they're either concerned with, or just different educational pieces. Because we find a lot of times, you know, the social media side will blow up, there's misinformation. How do we get the one-on-one conversations to help really answer some of the questions that are out there? So that one that we just held, I think we had maybe our highest or second highest attendance. And another great success with that is we always ask folks where they're coming from, and it's usually, you know, the same area, folks that maybe are retired and have a lot more time to attend these things. And our attendance was much more vast and across the whole town and city than it has been. So they're slowly working, and the word's getting out. So when we host our next one, we'll let you know. And if you can either attend, Bob attended and was at that one, which we appreciate, but let folks know when our next one comes up. It'll probably be end of March. It's just a great resource, and it's a way that as staff we're trying to have one-on-one conversations with folks about just how it all works, and what you know, answer questions about concerns, and then also get people informed on some great stuff that's coming up.
Thanks, Karen, for that background. I appreciate that. And the last update, very related. Some of you remember that the EDC participated in roundtable discussions with representatives from the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Conservation Commission to help inform the POCD process, discuss where town goals overlap and how to support each other's work, and what can be changed or improved as we construct Groton 2035, which is the brand name for the POCD.
Great. I will keep you up to date as opportunities come up there too. There's roundtables that'll be held with different stakeholder groups, from developers to residents, and just different folks that basically everyone the zoning process touches will be part of those conversations. So right now they're wrapping up the baseline report, which is essentially just all the data of the current snapshot of everything that's happening in Groton, and then they kind of build from there as far as getting eventually to the POCD that will guide us to 2035. So it's obviously a very important document. We'll keep you updated. And thanks to everyone who participated in the event we held recently with our fellow commissions. I think that's everything. So if anyone has any questions, we're happy to answer. Yes, Joe. Oh, also Joe, I'm sorry, I forgot to thank you for being on the Pleasant Valley PSRC. As that.
Oh yeah.
You don't even know what you're in for yet.
No, I don't know what I'm in for yet. I'm sure I'll be able to handle it. Possibly, maybe not. I just want to get something on everyone's calendar. March 1st, Community Speaks Out. I think at the last meeting, the meeting that was a non-meeting, I mentioned that Community Speaks Out bought a building, was in the middle of renovating it, and we're getting very close now. But we're gonna invite the community in, and everybody obviously on the EDC is invited to come to it's kind of like a soft, not a soft opening, but just kind of we're almost finished, and we're gonna be looking for donations from certain folks, and we just want people to come in and see what we're doing. And that's March 1st. It's gonna be, I want to say, I think it's 1 to 3, but I'll make sure I get that to you. And I also wanted to mention that our chair is of the candidate for the 40th district. He didn't mention it tonight. I was waiting for him for a little announcement, and in Bob fashion, he didn't want to talk about himself, but I'm a big fan of Bob's, and I just wanted to make sure he reminded everyone that he does have his hat in the ring. So
Thank you, Joe.
you're welcome.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And we really appreciate your attending tonight. And we are just so excited about 2025. So thanks for being here. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.
You.
Good night.
Thank you.
I need to make sure I know how to stop the recording. Okay, there we go.